a great friend of mine. I have a large number of friends. I'm terribly lucky to have so many friends who I think are wonderful.
Hold on to your hats, because Prince Philip's private letters have unleashed a shockwave that could shake the royal family's foundations. Camilla Parker Bowles was always the specter in Charles and Diana's marriage, but these newly exposed pages reveal exactly how far her influence reached. From Philip's frank criticisms of Charles to his surprising sympathy for Diana, each secret letter drips with scandal and rumors. Wondering whether the monarchy can weather this storm? Brace yourself. This epic drama is only getting started. Philip's private criticism of Charles's affair. Prince Philip was never one to mince words, and his letters about Charles's affair with Camilla Parker Bowles proved just how firm and protective he could be. The public always saw him as a stern figure, but these personal messages shed light on his deep frustration with Charles's behavior and his sympathy for Diana's struggles. Although he and Diana were quite different in temperament, Philip understood that her marriage had been rocked by hurt and betrayal long before the world ever learned its full extent. From the start, Charles's ongoing contact with Camilla stirred unease and suspicion in Diana. Philip, worried about the negative impact on both the monarchy and family harmony, criticized Charles for putting everything on the line. He saw his son's relationship with Camilla not just as a personal failing, but as a potential threat to the royal family's dignity. In one of his letters, Philip apparently called Charles silly for risking his marriage. While this might sound blunt, it also showed his genuine desire to stop Charles from continuing a course that could hurt everybody involved. At the same time, Philip's letters reveal unexpected compassion toward Diana. He recognized that, despite her enormous popularity, she felt lonely and overwhelmed by public scrutiny. He sympathized with her battle to fit into an institution that thrived on formality and restraint. Philip had himself adapted to a life of royal duty, so he grasped the everyday pressures Diana faced, especially once her husband's emotional loyalty seemed to lie elsewhere. Given Diana's vulnerability, Philip worried greatly about Princes William and Harry, who were caught in the chaos. He believed they needed shelter from the constant media coverage and the pain created by their parents' crumbling relationship. In his letters, he urged Diana to focus on the boys' well-being, while also encouraging Charles to think about the damage this scandal could cause. What makes his criticism so striking is that Philip did not just scold Charles out of principle. He was genuinely torn by the effect Camilla's presence had on Diana and the children. He wanted to uphold tradition and maintain a respectable royal image. Still, he felt compelled to speak out once he realized that Charles's actions threatened the stability of the family he had served so faithfully. Though outsiders may never know every word in those private letters, it is clear that Philip's critique went well beyond stiff disapproval. It was, at heart, a father's urgent plea to protect the monarchy and heal the damage caused by a scandal that rocked the royal family to its core. Empathy for Diana. Princess Diana's entry into the royal family was anything but smooth. She was only 20 years old when she married Prince Charles, and, almost immediately, found herself overwhelmed by royal tradition and the unyielding glare of the media. Although some believed Diana's fairy tale wedding would grant her a blissful life, she struggled under the weight of expectation, loneliness, and emotional distress. Surprisingly, one figure who offered understanding, at least in private, was Prince Philip. Often viewed by the public as a stern, no-nonsense patriarch, Prince Philip showed flashes of genuine care and sympathy toward his daughter-in-law. In letters later revealed to the world, Philip acknowledged that Diana faced intense pressure from every side: the press, public expectations, and her own fragile marriage. He recognized that the monarchy's rigid sense of duty clashed sharply with Diana's more open, empathetic approach, leaving her feeling isolated and misunderstood. These letters were striking because they revealed Philip's criticism of his own son. He believed Charles was silly for risking his marriage and the wider image of the monarchy through his bond with Camilla Parker Bowles. But his concern for Diana did not stop with simple words of disapproval toward Charles. Philip also acknowledged the toll that public scrutiny and a failing marriage took on her mental health. He grasped that Diana felt alone despite her global popularity, and wanted her to know she had an ally, even if his style was more blunt than gentle. Another hallmark of Philip's empathy was his focus on protecting William and Harry. He worried about the emotional circus unfolding around them, stressing that they should be shielded as much as possible from the turmoil. It suggests he didn't see Diana as simply a troublesome royal. Rather, he understood she was a devoted mother trying to keep her children safe in an impossible environment. Though no one can say Prince Philip and Diana agreed on everything, his letters show a man who recognized her suffering and sought to alleviate it in the only ways he knew how. He may have been steeped in royal tradition, but at times he laid that aside to empathize with a young princess trapped in a spotlight that grew ever harsher. For Diana, who often felt unseen, it must have been a relief to discover that, behind Philip's formal demeanor, there was a willingness to understand her fears and her pain. Concern over public image. For the royal family, maintaining a polished public image has always been paramount. Yet, with Prince Philip's private letters coming into the spotlight, letters that supposedly leak the whole damn thing about Camilla, their controlled facade is once again in question. These letters reveal how important optics were to Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth, and the entire monarchy, especially during Charles and Diana's volatile marriage. From the start, Philip worried that Charles's continued bond with Camilla Parker Bowles would tarnish the royal family's name. He felt that affairs, or even the rumor of them, chipped away at the mystique the royals had so carefully built. Every public appearance was orchestrated to remind the world of royal stability and tradition. In Philip's eyes, if Charles's relationship with Camilla became too obvious, or if Diana spoke openly about marital betrayals, the monarchy could face a public relations disaster. Philip's private letters often touched on the importance of boundaries. Even when he criticized Charles for being silly enough to risk everything, he was ultimately worried about the ripple effect on the firm's reputation. For him, this wasn't merely a personal failing, it threatened the crown. The monarchy's glossy surface was only as strong as the public's belief in it, and Philip sensed that Charles's behavior, with Camilla always nearby, was eroding that trust. Diana's openness presented another major challenge. Her authentic, emotional demeanor, and later, her explosive panorama interview, broke the unspoken rule of royal discretion. While the public adored Diana for her candor, it rattled Philip's sense of order. He wrote letters urging her, in essence, to keep certain matters private for the sake of William, Harry, and the monarchy's broader image. Still, he sympathized with her. He knew the press spotlight could be relentless, and he seemed torn between supporting Diana's struggles and upholding a centuries-old system that prized silence and restraint. Camilla, always in the background, transformed from a hush-hush friend of Charles to a woman many blamed for the unraveling of the fairy tale. For Philip, her presence threatened not only Diana, but the monarchy itself. In a world where newspapers sold shocking headlines of heartbreak and betrayal, every rumor fed the public's appetite. The letters suggest Philip recognized how quickly public goodwill could vanish once scandal took center stage. Through it all, Philip's overriding concern was to keep the monarchy's image intact, something he believed was vital for its survival. Yet, these newly revealed letters highlight just how fragile that image could be when real emotions, hidden relationships, and a fiendishly curious media converged in one royal storm. Attempts at mediation. Prince Philip's letters reveal that his role as a mediator in Charles and Diana's marriage was far more complicated than anyone suspected. Although many viewed him as a stern, old-school figure, these recently leaked messages illustrate how keen he was to restore harmony in a royal household teetering on the edge. In fact, his dealings with Diana were surprisingly considerate, given his reputation for bluntness. From the start, Philip knew Camilla Parker Bowles stood in the middle of everything. Diana, feeling spurned by Charles's fixation on Camilla, found few allies within the royal family. Yet, Philip's letters show he recognized that Diana was overwhelmed and isolated. He firmly believed that if both sides communicated more honestly, maybe the marriage could be saved. At times, Philip's advice to Diana was unapologetically direct. He did not shy away from criticizing his own son for endangering the monarchy's moral authority through his ongoing relationship with Camilla. Philip hoped these frank opinions might jolt Charles into seeing the damage being done, both to Diana's well-being and to the crown's reputation. He also urged Diana to keep the focus on her children, Princes William and Harry, and not let media chaos consume the boys' childhood. Still, Philip's mediation efforts collided with strong personalities and deep-seated mistrust. Diana's heartbreak ran too deep, and Charles, according to these letters, was unwilling to end his emotional reliance on Camilla. Though Philip held out hope that his blunt perspective and fatherly guidance would bring the couple back together, events quickly spun out of control. The more Charles leaned on Camilla, the more Diana felt betrayed, not just by her husband, but by the traditions that seemed to shield him. Philip tried to protect the monarchy by urging both parties to respect their duties. Yet, the effect was limited. Diana, finding her pleas brushed aside, turned increasingly to the press, further fanning public interest in the scandal. Philip's attempts at mediation reveal a grandfather, father, and royal consort caught in the middle of a painful collision of love, duty, and tradition. His desperate letters were not only designed to patch up a fractured marriage, but also to safeguard the monarchy's public image. Although his efforts could not prevent Charles and Diana's eventual divorce, they remain a testament to Philip's desire to hold the family together while preserving its centuries-old legacy, despite Camilla's undeniable role in the drama. Implications of Charles wanting Diana. Rumors about King Charles wanting Diana out of the way have always been at the heart of conspiracy chatter. But now, Prince Philip's leaked letters have reignited those claims with dramatic force. In these private notes, Philip reveals Diana's deep fears and suggests Charles's ongoing connection to Camilla Parker Bowles played a huge part in the tension. Though there's no official proof Charles hatched any plan against Diana, even the hint of such intentions casts a long shadow over royal history. Philip's letters indicate Diana felt increasingly unsafe in her final years, worried that Charles's frustration and the media circus would push him to desperate measures. Observers believe these fears weren't mere paranoia. The royals, after all, were navigating a tumultuous marriage crisis while juggling a very public image. With Camilla forever in the background, Diana's concern that Charles might want her gone, as the letters seem to imply, added an unsettling dimension to their already fraught relationship. Critics argue no direct link exists between Charles and Diana's tragic passing in 1997. Official investigations blame a fatal car crash, paparazzi pursuit, and a driver under the influence. Yet the leaked letters stoke decades-old whispers that Charles saw Diana as a roadblock to his future with Camilla. Whether or not there was any real plot, the letters confirmed Diana truly worried that forces close to Charles could harm her. Prince Philip evidently took her concerns seriously enough to acknowledge them in writing. Such revelations raise pressing questions. Were Diana's fears fueled by actual threats, or did she feel cornered by a family that didn't want her shaking up centuries of guarded tradition? The monarchy has always prized discretion and unity. A high-profile divorce, plus Diana's tell-all interviews, put them under enormous pressure. If Charles did harbor resentment, it might have come from the non-stop media frenzy and Diana's extraordinary popularity, both of which clashed with his desire for a stable, orderly future. Warnings about media frenzy. When Prince Philip's private letters just leaked the whole damn thing about Camilla, the world focused on the explosive claims about Charles and Diana. Yet, there was another thread running through these secret exchanges: urgent warnings about a looming media frenzy. Philip understood better than most how the public's appetite for royal drama could spiral out of control, causing huge fallout for everyone involved. His blunt messages reflect both frustration and foresight, revealing that he anticipated the press would seize any scandalous detail and blow it sky high. From the early days of Charles and Diana's courtship, headlines projected an idyllic, fairy tale romance. But once cracks emerged in their marriage, especially Camilla's enduring presence, tabloids went into overdrive. Diana's personal struggles, coupled with Charles's reluctance to let Camilla go, gave hungry reporters endless fodder. In his letters, Philip repeatedly cautioned both Diana and Charles that once the media caught wind of their marital problems, controlling the narrative would be nearly impossible. He also worried that the relentless spotlight would damage the royal family's reputation far beyond a single scandal. With the monarchy dependent on public goodwill, Philip saw a clear connection between privacy and longevity. The letters reveal him urging Diana to avoid fueling rumors, while likewise warning Charles that open displays of affection with Camilla, no matter how innocent, would become prime tabloid material. He predicted the disastrous cycle of rumor and rebuttal that would eventually consume the Windsors. This media mania didn't just hurt Charles and Diana, it affected William and Harry too. Philip's letters expressed concern that the boys would grow up in a world where cameras followed their every move, magnifying every family dispute for newspaper sales. The more tension within the palace, the bigger the headlines, and the less chance the children had of finding normalcy. He wanted both parents to protect their sons, reminding them that every public misstep would soon be front-page news. Ultimately, Philip's warnings about the press proved all too accurate. Diana, feeling unheard and isolated, gave her famous Panorama interview, which unleashed even more media scrutiny. Meanwhile, Charles faced endless criticism for his bond with Camilla, stoking gossip about conspiracies and hidden agendas. It was the exact storm Prince Philip had cautioned against, where private heartbreak was laid bare for an audience hungry for scandal. Today, his leaked letters stand as a testament to the royal family's struggles with a media machine that never stops, always watching, always hungry for the next headline. Focus on William and Harry. When discussing Prince Philip's private letters, those that supposedly just leaked the whole damn thing about Camilla, it's impossible to overlook how much he worried about William and Harry. Throughout those tense years, the two young princes stood at the center of a storm they never asked for. Their parents' messy relationship and Charles's continued closeness with Camilla became front-page news, whether they liked it or not. Prince Philip's correspondence reveals a grandfather genuinely anxious about the emotional consequences all this chaos could inflict on the boys. From the beginning, William and Harry were forced into a spotlight brighter than most celebrity children face. The media fascination with Diana, who was already dubbed the People's Princess, meant every trip to school, every family holiday, and every small milestone was photographed, dissected, and debated. In his secret letters, Philip cautioned about the long-term harm this invasive attention could cause. He repeatedly urged both Charles and Diana to protect their children from an unrelenting press. There was no point in trying to completely hide the boys from public life. They were royals after all. But Philip believed strongly in drawing firm boundaries to maintain some semblance of normalcy. After all, William and Harry were dealing with more than just paparazzi. They were struggling through family tensions as their parents drifted apart. Philip's letters make clear he recognized how damaging it is for children when mom and dad argue, especially under the watchful eye of an entire nation. He worried that the situation, particularly Charles's bond with Camilla, undermined William and Harry's sense of security at a time they needed it most. When Diana's emotional woes spilled into the public sphere, Philip urged her to confide in people she trusted while shielding her boys from the worst of it. Meanwhile, he implored Charles to be mindful of keeping Camilla out of the spotlight, so that William and Harry could have something resembling a normal childhood. Tension, triumphing over tradition. Prince Philip's supposedly leaked letters have pulled back the curtain on a royal drama rarely seen so openly. At the heart of it is Camilla Parker Bowles, the woman whose quiet, persistent presence challenged centuries of royal custom. For Prince Charles and Princess Diana, life in the public eye was already intense. Still, add Prince Philip's strong opinions and dismay over his son's choices, and the scene took a dramatic turn. Cracks in the royal foundation were growing too large to hide. For decades, tradition guided the royals' every move, from public duty to private behavior. But as Charles refused to cut ties with Camilla, the strain on his marriage to Diana became impossible to ignore. According to Philip's revealed letters, he believed it was silly and short-sighted for Charles to risk irreparable harm to the monarchy with an emotional affair everyone sensed, if not fully saw, in plain sight. At risk was not only the fairy tale image of the young Princess of Wales, but also the long-standing notion that royal marriages, once sealed with ceremony, must endure quietly for the sake of tradition. Diana's heartbreak laid bare her desire for intimacy in a family that prized stiff upper lips. She felt emotionally abandoned, trapped in a world that judged her slightest misstep. Philip, though often described as no-nonsense, expressed surprising empathy in his letters, recognizing that her suffering was rooted in more than just media intrusion. He knew the monarchy's carefully crafted facade was shattering, revealing raw emotions behind palace walls. Yet the conflicting personalities and loyalties within the royal household made reconciliation impossible. Charles was torn between duty and a woman the public viewed as the other. Diana, feeling both unloved and unheard, began stepping outside traditional bounds by speaking openly with the press. Suddenly, royal secrecy clashed with modern transparency, ripping the family's carefully preserved mystique to shreds. Even with Philip trying to mediate, the tension soared, ultimately overpowering the monarchy's storied culture of quiet endurance. The fairy tale facade shattered. When Charles and Diana first stepped into the public eye as a couple, the world saw nothing but fairy tale magic. She was young, shy, and beautiful. He was the dashing heir to the throne. Their lavish wedding in 1981 appeared to confirm the fantasy 750 million people around the globe watched in awe, convinced that this royal union would symbolize hope and romance for generations. Yet behind the glossy headlines and glittering gowns lay a reality far darker than anyone suspected. Recently leaked letters from Prince Philip, letters that just leaked the whole damn thing about Camilla, have cast new light on just how fragile that fairy tale image truly was. From the beginning, Charles's attachment to Camilla Parker Bowles made Diana uneasy. These letters hint that Philip himself was aware of how Charles's ongoing contact with Camilla could unravel the entire carefully choreographed image the palace worked so hard to maintain. The public, meanwhile, hungered for every detail of the new princess's life, unknowingly fueling an ever-growing media frenzy. As time went on, Diana felt the crushing weight of royal expectations and the stifling formality that came with them. Inside Buckingham Palace, it became clear that the dreamlike story crafted for the cameras never quite aligned with real life. Charles, for his part, faced his own struggles. Pressured to marry and produce heirs, he may not have been prepared, emotionally or otherwise, for a union with someone he barely knew. With Camilla's influence still in the picture, his focus drifted, and Diana felt more alone than ever. Prince Philip's private letters, as revealed in these leaks, underscore how seriously he took the growing crisis. He tried to mediate, scolding Charles for risking everything by not letting go of Camilla, and showing surprising sympathy toward Diana's isolation. In public, the royal machine continued to project glamour and harmony. But behind closed doors, the strain of false perfection only grew. Diana struggled with her mental health, and the press, always pungent and prying, capitalized on every slip of her composure. The revelations, from Diana's candid interviews to the shocking new letters that confirmed Philip's own frustration, laid bare a marriage haunted by secrets and heartbreak. It became clear that the smiling photographs and grand processions were never the full story. What the world hailed as a storybook romance was, in fact, a fragile dream that splintered under the weight of betrayal, tradition, and a relentless spotlight. Lasting legacy of the letters. Even decades after Charles and Diana's tumultuous marriage made headlines, the secret letters from Prince Philip still spark fresh conversations about the true dynamics within the royal household. In these private writings, Philip appears both forceful and compassionate. He scolds Charles for carrying on with Camilla, but also sympathizes with Diana, aware she felt cornered by tradition and constant public attention. The fact that these letters now exist in the public eye has undeniably reshaped how we view the heartache at the center of the old fairy tale. For one thing, the letters underscore just how seriously Philip feared the impact of scandal on the monarchy. He understood the public had long treasured the royal family as a symbol of continuity. These private confessions show he worried that Charles's relationship with Camilla would shatter this carefully curated image. In writing to Diana, Philip tried to patch things up. He encouraged her to reconcile with Charles and preserve the monarchy's aura of stability. But behind that motive lay genuine warmth. He recognized Diana's struggles and wanted to spare her further suffering. This dual stance of fervent protectiveness for both the institution and its people remains one of the letter's most striking revelations. Over time, the letters have become part of Diana's broader legacy as well. They show a young princess under pressure from every angle, leaning on whomever would give her a lifeline. Her willingness to confide in Philip, and his willingness to write back, attest to a mutual belief that some semblance of family unity might still be salvaged. Indeed, the letters detail not only a marriage in crisis, but also a grandfatherly concern for William and Harry. Philip frequently reminds Diana that the boys deserve shelter from media storms. This protective instinct echoes long after Diana's death, fueling questions about how events might have turned out if family bonds had been stronger. Finally, these letters stand as a reminder that the people behind the crown have the same vulnerabilities as anyone else. They endure heartbreak, family disputes, and the burden of living in the public eye. Learning of Philip's blunt criticisms, as well as his sympathy, transforms him from distant patriarch to a father trying to do right by both his son and daughter-in-law. In that sense, the letters' legacy goes beyond finger-pointing. They encourage us to see the royals as individuals caught in an extraordinary web of duty, love, and tradition, where personal hope sometimes clashes with the unyielding demands of the crown.
I'm 75 now, and I can't remember anybody except them.
In a shocking development that has sent tremors through Buckingham Palace, Laura Lopes, daughter of Queen Camilla, has been sentenced in a case shrouded in extraordinary secrecy. The ruling, delivered behind closed doors and absent from public court records, has resulted in her immediate removal from British soil. Palace officials have gone to unprecedented lengths to suppress details of the case, but our sources have uncovered disturbing information about what really happened. What could the Queen's daughter have done to receive such a severe sentence? And why is the royal family desperate to keep it hidden? Stay tuned, because this revelation changes everything we thought we knew about the House of Windsor. The secret hearing. On a grey Monday morning, Laura Lopes arrived at an unmarked government building in central London. Unlike the high-profile court appearances of other public figures, there were no press photographers, no waiting crowds, just an ordinary-looking entrance guarded by unusually alert security personnel. Dressed conservatively and escorted by individuals who carried no official identification, Laura was ushered through a private entrance and disappeared from public view. Inside waited what one source described as a court that doesn't officially exist. No public gallery, no court reporters, no ordinary legal procedures. The small, austere room contained only essential personnel: a judge with specialized security clearance, prosecutors with intelligence backgrounds rather than typical Crown Prosecution Service credentials, and a defense team bound by confidentiality agreements so restrictive that breaking them would constitute treason. This wasn't justice as the public understands it, revealed a source with connections to royal security protocols. This was crisis management disguised as legal proceedings. The charges against Laura, while never formally made public, centered around unauthorized access to classified royal archives, specifically, documents the monarchy had spent decades keeping from public view. According to our sources, Laura had spent years quietly collecting information that posed an existential threat to the modern monarchy's carefully crafted image. She began with simple curiosity about family history, explained someone formerly connected to Laura's household. But what she discovered led her down a path that eventually crossed lines the institution couldn't tolerate. The most sensitive materials allegedly included documents related to royal financial arrangements with foreign governments, private correspondence revealing senior royals' unfiltered opinions on political matters, and most explosively, records contradicting official narratives about key historical events involving the monarchy. During the 6-hour proceeding, Laura reportedly remained composed, speaking only when directly addressed by the judge. Unlike criminal defendants who might plead for leniency or claim mitigating circumstances, she offered no defense beyond acknowledging her actions. Those present described her demeanor not as defeated but resolute, the bearing of someone who had made peace with the consequences of a deliberate choice. The sentence, when delivered, was unprecedented for a person of her status. While not termed imprisonment in any conventional sense, the ruling mandated her immediate relocation to an undisclosed secure facility outside British territory, where she would remain indefinitely without access to communication devices, internet, or unapproved visitors. The official terminology, protective isolation for reasons of national security, barely disguised the reality: permanent exile designed to ensure her silence. As Laura was escorted from the room through a secure exit, she reportedly turned to a senior royal official present and spoke 7 words that have haunted palace corridors since. The truth finds its way. Always. Within hours, she had been removed from British soil via military transport. her destination known only to a handful of officials with the highest security clearances. The cover-up operation. The palace's public statement, issued the following day, made no mention of any legal proceedings. It simply announced that Laura Lopes would be residing abroad indefinitely for personal reasons and requested privacy. The brevity and vagueness only fueled speculation among those who monitor royal activities closely. Behind the scenes, an elaborate operation was already underway. Teams with specialized training in evidence recovery descended on properties connected to Laura, her family home, office spaces, storage facilities, even locations registered under names not publicly associated with her. Computers were seized, documents confiscated, and storage devices removed. But the operation went far beyond simple evidence gathering. They weren't just collecting materials, revealed a source familiar with the security response. They were eliminating all trace of her, research, and by extension, her presence in royal life. Most telling was the treatment of her private study in her Wiltshire home. According to household staff who witnessed the operation, the room was systematically dismantled. Floorboards were removed, wall panels were opened, ceiling fixtures were examined for hidden compartments. The thoroughness suggested extreme concern about what might be concealed there. Yet despite this exhaustive search, key documents apparently remained unaccounted for. The most sensitive materials, what one source called the monarchy's extinction level event, were nowhere to be found, triggering alarm among those managing the containment effort. There was serious concern she had created a dead man's switch, explained a former intelligence officer with knowledge of the case. Insurance files distributed to trusted allies, programmed to become public under certain conditions. This fear drove the next phase, identifying and neutralizing potential accomplices. Friends who had been close to Laura suddenly received unexpected job opportunities abroad. Associates found their visa applications mysteriously expedited. The pattern revealed a coordinated effort to distance anyone who might have served as her confidant. Particularly concerning to royal officials was Laura's long-standing friendship with an investigative journalist known for exposing government scandals. This individual abruptly announced an extended sabbatical in New Zealand shortly after Laura's removal, raising questions about whether they had been pressured into silence or were positioning themselves beyond immediate reach of British authorities. Digital traces of Laura began disappearing as well. Archives of events where she had appeared alongside royal family members were edited. Her minimal social media presence vanished overnight. Even photographs in which she appeared peripherally at royal functions were removed from official platforms and replaced with carefully cropped versions, excluding her. The goal was to gradually minimize public awareness of her existence, noted a social media expert who tracked the changes. Not an erasure so obvious it would raise questions, but a subtle dimming of her presence in royal history. The family fractures. Behind palace walls, Laura's sentence reportedly created the most severe family crisis since Harry and Meghan's departure. Queen Camilla, torn between maternal instinct and institutional duty, was described by insiders as shattered but silenced. According to sources close to the royal household, she was informed of the action against her daughter only hours before it occurred, presented not as a request for permission, but as an operational necessity already set in motion. Camilla was given the appearance of consultation, said one palace source. In reality, she was simply being prepared to accept a decision made at levels even she couldn't challenge. King Charles, meanwhile, allegedly took a firmer position supporting the action. Sources suggest he viewed Laura's activities not merely as a security concern, but as a personal betrayal, particularly regarding documents relating to Diana and the monarchy's response following her death. This difference in perspective has reportedly created a painful distance between the royal couple. The king understands the institutional necessity, explained a longtime royal advisor. But watching his wife grieve the effective loss of her daughter while being unable to offer genuine comfort has created a strain in their relationship that wasn't there before. The most volatile reaction has reportedly come from Laura's brother, Tom Parker Bowles. Unlike his more private sister, Tom has maintained a public profile as a food writer and critic while remaining connected to royal circles. According to multiple sources, he vocally opposed the action against Laura, even threatening to speak publicly about her treatment, a prospect that sent shockwaves through palace officials already managing a precarious situation. Tom had to be managed differently, revealed one source. His public profile made coercion impossible, so influence was applied through professional channels instead. Suddenly, new opportunities appeared. Publishing deals materialized. The message was clear. Cooperation would be rewarded. Resistance would carry costs. Prince William, now fully embedded in the institutional machinery of monarchy, has reportedly supported the action against his stepsister, viewing it as regrettable but necessary for the monarchy's stability. According to palace insiders, he was among those briefed on specific contents of the seized documents and recognized their potential to fundamentally damage the institution he will someday lead. Most intriguingly, Prince Harry, long removed from royal operations in his California life, has allegedly made discreet inquiries about Laura's situation through intermediaries. Sources suggest he recognized parallels between her treatment and his own experiences challenging royal protocols, with these inquiries being met with diplomatic deflection from official channels. For Queen Camilla, the situation has created an impossible position. Sources describe a woman caught between institutional obligation and maternal anguish, permitted no direct communication with her daughter since the sentencing. All information comes through official briefings provided by the same security apparatus that engineered Laura's removal. In public, she maintains composure, noted one household staff member. In private, the weight is visible. She's begun questioning the path that led her into royal life, wondering if the personal cost has become too great.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
The courtroom is silent. Everyone is watching, waiting. Then, something shocking happens. Queen Camilla's face turns pale. Her hands shake. Before anyone can react, she falls to the floor. Gasps fill the room. People jump up from their seats. Judges, lawyers, security. Everyone is in shock. Just moments ago, she had stood there, waiting to hear her punishment. But as soon as the judge spoke, everything changed. The words hit her like a heavy weight. Her eyes widened, her body swayed. And then, she collapsed. Guards rush to her side. Some people whisper, others just stare. What was said in that courtroom? What kind of sentence was so shocking that it made the Queen fall? The truth behind this moment is something no one saw coming. How did Queen Camilla end up in court? The story of how Queen Camilla ended up in court is truly shocking. It left the whole nation stunned. For years there had been whispers, small rumors in the air about royal money being spent where it shouldn't. But no one ever expected it to blow up like this. It all started with leaked documents. These papers didn't just come out of nowhere. They were leaked by someone who used to work inside the palace. The documents showed that millions of pounds from the royal funds were being used for personal luxuries, not just normal shopping or gifts, but private jets, secret holidays, and even hush money to cover up past royal scandals. One of the biggest shocks was that the money trail led straight to Queen Camilla. People had always joked about her love for the finer things, but now there was proof. Some claimed she knew about it, others said she didn't. But one thing was clear. This scandal was too big to hide. The public was furious. The cost of living was already hitting everyone hard. Families were struggling to buy groceries, pay bills, and survive. And here was the Queen Consort, using public funds like her own piggy bank. The anger grew every day. Protesters stood outside Buckingham Palace with signs that read, "Not with our money." The media had a field day. Every news channel, every newspaper, every social media platform was full of updates about Camilla's scandal. Every hour brought a new leak or a shocking twist. People couldn't stop watching. The British people felt betrayed, and the pressure on the royal family was at an all-time high. What made things worse was the fact that royals rarely face legal action. The last time the public saw a royal facing legal trouble was when Prince Andrew got caught up in a serious scandal. But even then, the family managed to protect him. This time, however, it was different. The evidence was too strong, and the people were too angry. There was no way out. The case had to go to court. The courtroom drama. The day of the trial felt like a movie. People gathered outside the court from early morning, holding signs and chanting. Reporters from all over the world were there, trying to get a glimpse of the Queen as she walked in. Everyone wanted to see her face. Would she look scared Would she even show up? As the clock hit 9 a.m., the doors of the courtroom opened. Cameras flashed like crazy, and there she was, Queen Camilla. She wore a black dress and dark sunglasses. Her face was pale, and her lips tight. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just walked straight in, ignoring the crowd. But one thing was clear. King Charles was not with her. People noticed. It spoke louder than words. The air inside the courtroom was heavy. You could feel the tension. The prosecution was ready. They laid out every piece of evidence they had. Photos, receipts, bank records, all showing how money meant for charity and public projects had been used for Camilla's personal pleasures. Private island holidays, designer clothes, secret deals, everything was out in the open now. And then came the biggest twist: statements from palace staff. People who had worked for the Queen stood in front of everyone and spoke. They talked about how they were asked to cover things up. They talked about the threats they received when they refused. One former staff member, with tears in her eyes, said, "We were told to stay silent or lose our jobs. We were scared." Camilla's defense team tried their best. They painted her as a woman who was just a victim of palace politics. They argued that she didn't know where the money was coming from. They said she simply trusted the wrong people. Her lawyer even said, Her Majesty only did what she thought was best for the crown. She never meant to harm anyone. But the damage was done. The court had heard too much. The people had seen too much. Deep down, even Camilla knew. This was not going to end well. The verdict and sentencing. After days of arguments, witness statements, and countless evidence being shown, the moment everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. The courtroom went silent as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. Cameras zoomed in. Reporters held their breath. Even outside the court, people stood frozen, waiting. The judge began by recapping the case. He spoke about the years of misuse of funds, the lies, and the cover-ups. His voice was cold, firm, and full of disappointment. Then came the words that shook the entire nation. Her Majesty Queen Camilla is found guilty of the charges presented. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. Some cried, others clapped. And then, the sentence was announced. Queen Camilla was fined millions of pounds. But that wasn't all. She was sentenced to 2 years of house arrest inside a royal estate. She was also stripped of several royal titles. From that day forward, she would no longer be known as Her Majesty in any official capacity. The camera zoomed in on Camilla's face. Her eyes filled with tears. She looked lost, broken, and humiliated. And then, right there in front of everyone, Camilla collapsed. Her body went limp as she fainted. Gasps filled the courtroom. Reporters shouted. Medical staff rushed in, trying to revive her. Outside, the scene was wild. Protesters cheered. They screamed, "Justice! Finally justice!" But not everyone was happy. Loyal royal supporters stood in tears, clutching pictures of Camilla and the king. It was a moment no one would ever forget. International media jumped on the story. Headlines all over the world screamed, "Queen collapses in court after sentence." The royal family's darkest day was now playing live on every TV screen across the globe. Royal family's response. As news of Camilla's collapse spread, all eyes turned to Buckingham Palace. Everyone wanted to know, how was King Charles reacting? Hours later, a royal spokesperson read out a statement from the king. His words were full of sadness. "My wife is a victim of circumstance. She has been treated unfairly. We will stand by her." But behind the scenes, rumors told a different story. Insiders claimed King Charles was furious. Not just angry, but embarrassed that the woman he loved had dragged the monarchy through the mud. Things got worse when Prince William and Prince Harry reacted. William stayed silent, avoiding reporters, but sources close to him said he was heartbroken and disappointed. Harry, on the other hand, couldn't resist. Meghan posted a cryptic message on Instagram that read, "Karma always knows where to find you." Fans went wild. Was it aimed at Camilla? Many believed it was. Inside the palace, chaos broke out. Senior royal advisors held emergency meetings. damage control plans were made. The royal family knew they were standing on thin ice. One wrong move, and the monarchy itself could fall. In another statement, the palace promised full cooperation with the law. But the truth was, they were scared. Scared of what this meant for the future. Impact on the monarchy. The impact of the scandal was bigger than anyone could have imagined. Overnight, public support for the royal family dropped. Polls showed shocking results. More than half the country now wanted the monarchy abolished. People were tired. Tired of scandals, tired of secrets, tired of paying for royal luxuries while they struggled to live. Talks began in Parliament about cutting royal funding. Why should taxpayers' money go to a family that misused it? The anger was real, and it was growing every day. The scandal didn't just stop in the UK. Commonwealth countries like Australia and Canada started asking tough questions. Was it time to break ties with the British monarchy? Could they really stand by a royal family involved in such corruption? For Camilla, the future looked bleak. People wondered, would she ever be seen in public again? Could she survive this? Rumors spread that she might lose her queen title forever. Some even said the king was considering exile, sending Camilla away to a private estate, far from the public eye. The fairy tale was over. What was left was a royal family in ruins. The aftermath, and what's next. In the days that followed, updates about Camilla's health started to come out. She was recovering at a private estate, far from the cameras. Some sources claimed she was heartbroken. Others said she barely spoke. The once powerful queen consort was now a prisoner in her own palace. Whispers of divorce started floating around. People wondered if King Charles could really stay married to someone who brought so much shame to the crown. But the palace stayed silent, at least for now. Camilla's legal team hinted at a possible appeal. They were still fighting, still hoping to clear her name. But deep down, everyone knew. It was over. The bigger picture, however, was scarier. What did this mean for royal accountability? Would future royals also be dragged to court if they messed up? Was this the beginning of the end for the British monarchy? People around the world were watching, waiting, wondering what would happen next. The courtroom may have gone silent, but the questions still remain. What happens next? Will Queen Camilla recover from this shocking moment? And most importantly, what does this sentence mean for the future? One thing is certain, this story is far from over. Make sure to stay updated because there's more to uncover. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next big update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
You didn't believe she was dead?
For a long time, I just refused to accept that she was gone. Part of, she would never do this to us, but also part of, maybe this is all part of a plan.
The death of Princess Diana sparked countless rumors and speculations over the years. Yet many questions remain unanswered. These questions have lingered in the shadows for decades. Well, in a surprising twist, it turns out the answers we've all longed for lie within the dramatic final 24 hours of her life. Join us in this video as we uncover the untold story of Diana's last day, revealing the shocking truth behind the events that led to her untimely death. The final afternoon. The day that changed the world. The morning of Saturday, the 30th of August, started like any other for Princess Diana, though her life was anything but ordinary. She was enjoying the last days of a Mediterranean holiday in Sardinia, Italy, accompanied by her companion, Dodi Al-Fayed. While the serene surroundings offered some semblance of peace, Diana was never truly away from the public eye. Relentless paparazzi had trailed the couple for months, capturing every moment of their budding romance. By early afternoon, Diana and Dodi boarded a private jet belonging to Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, a billionaire businessman and owner of the prestigious Ritz Hotel in Paris. Their destination was Paris, where they planned to spend one night before returning to London. Despite their efforts to escape the prying lenses of photographers, their plans were thwarted. Somewhere along the line, someone had tipped off the press, and the Paris paparazzi were ready and waiting. Their flight from Sardinia to Le Bourget Airport, a VIP hub in Paris, lasted just under 2 hours. At exactly 3:20 p.m., the jet touched down. Outside the airport, a swarm of more than 20 photographers on motorbikes and scooters awaited their arrival, eager for their chance at exclusive shots of the couple. Cameras flashed incessantly as Diana and Dodi disembarked, accompanied by their bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, and chauffeur, Henri Paul. From the airport, the group traveled to the Ritz Hotel in a sleek Mercedes, with a backup Range Rover following closely behind. Michael Cole, a spokesperson for the Al Fayed family, later remarked that their arrival was anything but calm, with photographers riding alongside the car, snapping pictures at every turn. The chaos deeply unsettled Diana. According to reports, she expressed her concern for the paparazzi, stating, "One of these people is going to get themselves killed." Her worry was not for her own safety, but for the reckless behavior of the photographers pursuing them. That afternoon marked the start of what would become one of the most tragic and dramatic chapters in modern history. A day that began with a flight from Sardinia, and would end with the world mourning the loss of its beloved people's princess. Keep watching. Moments at the Ritz Hotel and struggles with paparazzi. After their eventful arrival in Paris, Princess Diana and Dodi Al Fayed sought refuge in the lap of luxury at the Ritz Hotel, one of the world's most opulent establishments. It was approximately 4:30 in the afternoon when they checked into the Imperial Suite. While their stay was meant to be a brief respite, the persistent shadow of paparazzi followed them relentlessly. By 6:30 that evening, Dodi managed to slip away unnoticed to visit an exclusive jewelry store nearby. Here, he discreetly collected a ring the couple had chosen 10 days earlier during a visit to the jeweler's Monte Carlo location. When asked about the ring's selection, a jeweler revealed, they chose it together. It was a very engaging moment. The nature of their relationship and whether an engagement was imminent has since been a topic of endless speculation, with one commentator noting, "If this planet lasts another 1,000 years, people will still be debating it." But that's not all. At 7 o'clock, Dodi and Diana left the Ritz to visit Dodi's apartment on the Champs-Élysées. The couple may have hoped to enjoy a private moment, but photographers were already stationed outside the residence, waiting to capture their every move. The paparazzi's relentless pursuit had become so invasive that, according to bodyguard Kes Wingfield, their team had pleaded with the photographers to back off and give the couple some space. The response, however, was dismissive. "We're just doing our job. If you want trouble, we'll bring more people, and then you'll really see something." Plans for a quiet dinner at a romantic Parisian restaurant were soon abandoned, as the couple realized the restaurant's windows would offer photographers an unobstructed view. Opting for privacy, they returned to the Ritz, a decision that would prove consequential. Despite the short 2-kilometer drive, paparazzi trailed them relentlessly. The Ritz's security cameras captured one of the final public images of Diana as she entered the revolving doors, visibly distressed by the day's events. Her frustration was palpable, and her hopes for a peaceful evening had been shattered. Adding to the night's tension was Henri Paul, the Ritz's acting security chief, who had returned to duty around 10 p.m. after being off earlier in the evening. By this point, he had allegedly consumed a significant amount of alcohol. Reports suggest Paul had been called back to the hotel but had spent the intervening hours at a local bar, where he was seen drinking whiskey. Eyewitness accounts of his sobriety varied wildly. Some bartenders claimed he was never a heavy drinker, while others noted his erratic behavior that night. A video released by the Al Fayed family attempted to dispel claims of negligence, showing Paul acting normally upon his return to the Ritz. Wingfield also vouched for Paul's demeanor, stating, "He was laughing, joking about my French. Nothing suggested he was drunk. If I had suspected otherwise, I would have sent him home." By 11 p.m., a large crowd, including paparazzi, had gathered outside the Ritz. Shortly after midnight, Diana and Dodi decided to leave the hotel, hoping to avoid attention by sneaking out the back entrance. A hired Mercedes, driven by Henri Paul and accompanied by bodyguard Trevor Rees-Jones, was ready. At 12:15 a.m., the four departed the Ritz, setting off on a journey that would tragically become their last. Was it Paul's fault? Was he really drunk? Or was there more to it? You definitely want to know. So, keep watching. The final drive, departure from the Ritz, and the fatal crash. Henri Paul, the deputy head of security at the Ritz, assumed the driver's seat that night. Unknown to Diana and Dodi, Paul harbored dangerous secrets beneath his composed exterior. Toxicology reports would later reveal a grim truth. Paul had consumed alcohol levels 3 times above the legal limit in France. Adding to the peril, traces of prescription medication were found in his system, creating a cocktail of substances that severely impaired his judgment. Once on the road, it became clear the paparazzi were not fooled by the diversion. Several photographers on motorcycles quickly gave chase, weaving through traffic in pursuit of their prized subjects. Witnesses later recounted the surreal scene: the black Mercedes racing down the streets of Paris, flanked by motorbikes with photographers aiming their cameras like weapons. Stéphane Darmon, a motorcyclist accompanying a photographer, described Henri Paul's taunting behavior towards the paparazzi, calling it a dangerous game of cat and mouse. As the chase intensified, so did the danger. The car reportedly reached speeds of over 150 kilometers per hour. Paul's erratic driving only heightened the tension, with reports suggesting he deliberately attempted to outmaneuver the paparazzi by weaving through traffic and accelerating unpredictably. There is more. Their journey took a fateful turn as they approached the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Inside the dimly lit underpass, chaos erupted. At high speed, the Mercedes collided with a mysterious white Fiat Uno, sending the car spiraling out of control. Pieces of the Fiat were later recovered on the tunnel floor alongside the Mercedes' shattered wing mirror. But the Fiat itself and its driver vanished, leaving investigators baffled. Eyewitnesses at the scene described the horrifying aftermath. The Mercedes slammed into the 13th pillar of the tunnel with devastating force, crumpling the vehicle into an unrecognizable mass of metal. The sound of the crash echoed through the tunnel, drawing immediate attention from passers-by and emergency responders. The wreckage revealed the tragic cost of that final drive. Dodi Al-Fayed died on impact. Trevor Rees-Jones, the only survivor, suffered severe facial injuries and later claimed he had no memory of the crash. Princess Diana, though alive when rescuers arrived, was gravely injured. The role of the paparazzi in the tragedy remains a matter of heated debate. Some photographers claimed they were not close enough to the car to have caused the crash, while others admitted they followed the Mercedes at high speed. In an emotional statement, Dodi's father, Mohammed Al-Fayed, blamed the unwarranted, unnecessary, and unwelcome harassment of the paparazzi for the events that unfolded. The mysterious Fiat Uno added another layer of complexity to the investigation. Why would its driver disappear unless they had something to hide? Was it an innocent bystander caught in the chaos? Or did its presence signify something more sinister? These questions linger, fueling conspiracy theories and public speculation. Well, this was not the final moment for the People's Princess. Several battles were done to save her. Keep watching to know the efforts that were put into place and why they eventually didn't work. First aid response, the race to save Princess Diana at the scene. The harrowing crash in the Pont de l'Alma tunnel left a scene of devastation that demanded immediate and decisive action. As the chaos unfolded, emergency responders arrived. As her heart couldn't function properly due to lack of blood, he later explained, "I did this procedure to enable her to breathe." But the situation was even worse than anyone had initially feared. Dr. Damon discovered that Diana's pericardium, the protective membrane surrounding her heart, had been torn, which meant that her heart could no longer function properly. By 2:30 a.m. on August 31, 1997, it became clear that the team needed additional expertise. The decision was made to call upon Professor Alan Pavey, a renowned cardiac surgeon. He arrived at the hospital promptly, ready to join the fight for Diana's life. Inside the operating room, Professor Pavey and the medical team worked tirelessly to locate the source of the severe bleeding. Time was running out. After a desperate search, they discovered the devastating cause, a tear in Diana's upper left pulmonary vein, near the heart. It was a hole in her heart, and the damage was catastrophic. Dr. Dahman vividly recalled the intensity of the moment, noting how Professor Pavey expertly sutured the tear, hoping to save her life. Despite their best efforts, it became clear that the damage was too severe to overcome. Her heart struggled to maintain a steady rhythm, and her condition rapidly worsened. The medical team tried everything within their power to revive her. We tried electric shocks several times, Dr. Dahman later recounted, his voice heavy with emotion. But we could not get her heart beating again. Despite their relentless efforts, it was clear that there was little hope. So, when was she pronounced dead? And how did the world and royals take this news? Keep watching to know more. Princess Diana's untimely death, mourning, and funeral. After a relentless 2-hour cardiac massage and surgery in a desperate effort to save her life, Princess Diana's body finally succumbed to the severe internal injuries inflicted by the crash. At 4 a.m., amidst the solemn quiet of the operating room, the medical staff's efforts came to a heart-wrenching end. Princess Diana, beloved by millions, was declared deceased. Following her passing, grief enveloped the globe. As Prince Charles and Diana's sisters arrived in Paris to bring her body back to London, their expressions spoke volumes of the deep sorrow they were experiencing. Yet it was Diana's brother, Earl Charles Spencer, who would later put the profound sadness of the moment into words. At her funeral, he highlighted one of the greatest ironies of Diana's life. A woman given the name of the ancient goddess of hunting had, in the end, become the most hunted person of the modern age. Back in the United Kingdom, the loss of Princess Diana stirred an outpouring of grief unlike any the nation had seen before. From the lively streets of London to the quiet lanes of the countryside, Britons united in mourning, determined to honor the memory of their beloved people's princess. Flowers, tributes, and heartfelt messages flooded the gates of Kensington Palace, turning them into a symbol of the collective grief shared by millions. The streets were lined with bouquets, each one a tangible expression of Diana's enduring legacy and the love she had inspired. On September 6, 1997, Princess Diana's final journey began. The funeral procession set off from Kensington Palace, drawing thousands to the streets to pay their respects. The casket, carried on a gun carriage drawn by 6 black horses, made its way to Westminster Abbey. Along the route, Diana's sons, 15-year-old Prince William and 12-year-old Prince Harry, walked the final stretch, their hearts heavy with loss, as they honored the mother they had loved so deeply. It was a sight that moved the world, with an estimated 2.5 billion people tuning in worldwide to witness the somber event unfold. The service concluded with Princess Diana being laid to rest at her family's estate in Althorpe, on a tranquil island, where she would forever remain at peace. The nation, and the world, had said their final goodbyes to a princess who had transcended royal status to become an enduring symbol of humanity and compassion. So, who do you think was at fault? Henri Paul, the paparazzi, or maybe there is more? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. See you in the next one.